It was the year 1870, when here, in today's Czech Republic, within just a few days, two boys were born who would later make history, Josef Hoffmann and Adolf Loos. Austria still was Austria-Hungary and ruled by an emperor. Because the city walls had become outdated, the emperor instead had a road built around the city center of Vienna, with many important cultural and educational institutions. The first museum, built on the Ringstraße, was the Imperial Royal Museum of Art and Industry, which is today called the MAG. Back then, it was usual for architects to take bits and pieces from buildings of past eras and reassemble them. Ancient temples, Gothic cathedrals, and Baroque palaces then became a museum, a bank, or a city hall. Today we call that Historicism. Adolf and Josef moved to the capital city Vienna to listen to the words of Otto Wagner at the university. Otto Wagner was a famous architect and perhaps even the most modern of his time. And even if the emperor wasn't a big fan of him, a lot of buildings still remind of him in Vienna. Inspired by Wagner's words, Josef and Adolf wanted to and would make historicism, well, history. Working conditions in the factories were miserable, and the applied arts did not reflect how society and technology had changed in the past 100 years. The time, it seemed, was ripe for a new kind of art. This way of thinking didn't only spread throughout the empire. Many artists in Europe had the same idea. A young generation demanded their own style, suited for their own time. From architecture to interiors, from the armchair through the table to cutlery, everything suddenly needed to be redesigned, inspired by the spirit of Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau had many faces. Everyone influenced one another. Some imitated others, and some turned to nature as an example. But all of them ultimately agreed. Something new was needed. Something entirely radical originated in Vienna, to play with geometric forms like the square. Josef Hoffmann designed so much with the square as a motif that he was soon named after it, Quadratel-Hoffmann. All this was too much for Adolf Loos. Change, he believed, didn't come from ever-changing fashions and endless consumption, but through rethinking, reduction, and reflection on the good in existing things. Not only did we need a new art, but also something much more radical, a new, modern human being. More than 100 years later, the ideas of this time are still omnipresent. All of the things around us are subject to a designing will like Hoffmann and his pupils called for. We use these things to say who we are and what we stand for. We see the ideas of reduction and the reinvention of the human being in fashion, architecture, design, and in efficient and progressive systems. It seems natural for each generation to develop beyond itself from the previous one and to want to design things to be better and more contemporary. From history, we can learn to better understand our present, but we can only master the social and ecological challenges of our time through our own ideas and actions, and perhaps even contribute to designing the world ourselves.